Netherlands-based charity foundation DAIDA has been doing its bit to bring about a change. Its stated mission is to improve the living conditions for those at the lower end of the pyramid in cities of the developing countries. In an attempt to incentivize potential future change leaders to start thinking about the need and the means to make cities sustainable, inclusive, and livable for all, it has instituted a global urban thesis award. The idea is to encourage master's students from around the world to think beyond the standard topics for their academic dissertations and take one step towards changing the world.
The primary reason for DAIDA Awards is simply to make young people, to nudge them to think about issues which are really relevant for the society, instead of just get their degrees.
What I always find very inspiring about the entries is how young people are so socially engaged in what is happening in the world. I think when I had just graduated, I was completely focused on design. I was only thinking about what does my design look like. And I find it very heartening to see that young people nowadays also have a very good social, they're also considered with the impact and what the social values are of their thesis, which I find very inspiring.
How does it work? The competition is open for any master's student in architecture, design, psychology, town planning, or any subject related to the urban environmental landscape. Universities around the world can apply via the global knowledge platform, My Livable City, and select a handful of the best theses from students in their institutes to participate in the DAIDA competition. The topic for each year is selected by the DAIDA jury and board, and is always socially and environmentally relevant to the countries of the emerging economies. In the past, the themes have been water and urban development, inclusive cities, designing for climate change and addressing minorities.
So the theme when I participated in the DAIDA competition was Cities for All, Addressing Minorities. It was appealing for me because it aligned perfectly with my academic research during my master's, as well as my ongoing professional work in India, where I focus on affordable housing or low-income housing. I interpreted the theme of Cities for All, Addressing Minorities from the lens of cities for economic minorities and housing justice. My focus was on the city of New Delhi in India.
When given a particular theme, students are free to interpret it, relying on their own upbringing, life, and work experience.
The lens through which the students, either from their background of the specialization that they're doing, they look at it, the cities they choose can be very different. So for example, our theme of minorities, somebody talked about children, while somebody else talked about women, somebody else talked about widows.
It was actually my tutors who recommended me to put my thesis forwards for this competition. So the theme that year was the inclusive city, and actually it was really relevant to our studio project at the time. The problem we were dealing with was a result of housing crisis in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And the background of that is that there was mass rural to urban migration, and the response from the government was to create condominium housing to house everybody, thus creating quite an uninclusive, kind of very homogeneous approach.
This award is open to students of participating universities and educational institutes from all over the world. In the past, they have presented solutions for cities in Egypt, Tunisia, South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya in Africa, to India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Oman in Asia, as well as Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina in South America. The students in the universities themselves come from various countries, making this a truly international and diverse competition.
My thesis was focused on children, their behavior, and how our cities can influence their growth. And unfortunately, according to studies, children are one of the marginalized groups that are not considered while designing cities. I addressed the impact of the physical characteristics of streets on children's independent mobility in new cities, especially in UK or Egypt. So one of DAIDA's objectives is to help students implement their projects in their countries. So this was one of the reasons that encouraged me to apply for the DAIDA competition, that I would be able to implement the interventions based on my thesis in the neighborhood that was in my case study.
One piece of feedback I received was around the need to generate stronger urban design guidelines for the proposal. So the degree that I was studying at the time had a design component, but it was more focused on the social and economic and political lens of urban planning. So after I received that feedback, I took an urban design short course, and I'm considering studying further in the urban design space to deepen my understanding of design and potentially use that to enhance the proposal. And my thesis work and the award has placed me in a leadership position in that NGO, where I'm currently leading the food systems and food security related projects, which relates directly to my thesis, which looked at food systems and urban food security.
The jury shortlists 10 to 12 candidates who then present their thesis in an online award ceremony, along with other participants and the professors who nominated them. Participating in a recognized international competition brings students the opportunity to interact with expert jurors and industry veterans, learn from peers all over the world, while defending their ideas on an international stage.
I think what one must remember is that even if you have a very good thesis that's well written, that has a good solution, that has a good argument, even then the thesis may not stand out enough, because we also look at the way that the thesis is presented and how you tell your story. What we have found is that a thesis that we have just by reading it, we have thought, oh, it's a good thesis, but it's not excellent. When the jury has the presentation, and the presentation is really good, then we judge that thesis also on a higher level. While the opposite is also true, that sometimes we have a very well-written thesis, but the presentation and the explanation of the thesis at the presentation is not so good, then we judge it slightly less. So it's really important how you tell your story.
It's a learning for students like me who come from India, a developing country, to see presentations of some really polished colleges, and the way they present their work. So it's a learning. So it's always the exposure that DAIDA brings to the table.
DAIDA is currently supporting projects in India, Thailand, Philippines, Somalia, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Peru, and Egypt. Its board members comprise architects, development economists, management, housing, and real estate consultants, as well as urban planners. So, what does participating and winning the DAIDA competition bring? For one, a substantial cash prize, which is often the incentive for further research. Besides the cash prizes, the jury may also award special prizes to ideas that are scalable, and winners can start further researching and implementing their solutions.
The scale is different, but the creativity, the solutions, the analysis, they have to demonstrate that they're able to provide us with a sound solution and analysis. The award is actually evolving, and we see more and more very interesting entries from different universities and faculties. Obviously, that it requires an additional work of those submitting their thesis and their design work and their research work to the DAIDA award. I see the future with good perspectives.
I think that every student, winner or not winner, had added value about the big problems of this earth. And this problem about urban cities, this problem about diversity, this problem about the climate change. So I think that everyone has so much to tell and so much to think about it, that they are the young generation who have to be responsible for the next 50 years about this big issues.
Participation is free for universities who can select the top master's theses that are relevant to this year's theme. Participating universities can email academy@mylivablecity.com to know more. For now, let's hear it from some of the previous winners.
My name is Tessa Chittenden. I'm based in the city of Cape Town. I won second prize in the DAIDA Awards in 2022. The reason I got my current job was partly because of my success in the awards. And it's also a great opportunity to receive feedback on your thesis from a world-class panel of experts so that you can really deepen the strength of your thesis proposal.
Hi, I'm Myrna Labib. I'm winner of DAIDA Awards in 2023. Since winning it and have been more focused on my research topic from different perspectives that were presented to me by the jurors during the competition. You should participate in the DAIDA Award because implementing your project on ground, in addition to the possibility of your next research idea, could be right around the corner.
Hi, I'm Zubing Shir, and I was a winner in the DAIDA competition in 2021. I now work in London in Foster & Partners, and I fully recommend you to participate in the DAIDA competition because as a student coming out of university, I think it's super important wherever you may be afterwards to continue your fascinations that you had at university and to continue exploring your area of interest and to always keep sort of your ideas and convictions at the back of your mind throughout the rest of your lives.
I am Girisha Sethi. I received the DAIDA Foundation Award in the year 2023-24. As somebody who's been fortunate to receive the DAIDA Award, I'd encourage students and graduates of architecture, urban planning, and associated fields to participate in the DAIDA competition, as it is a wonderful, generous platform that not only recognizes and awards work that address critical issues in the field, but also promotes it at an international level.
Hi, this is architect Gauri Satam from Mumbai, India. I am the winner of DAIDA Awards 2021. The awards has definitely helped me in understanding that we as architects could contribute a lot to these urban problems through some participatory and inclusive planning alongside the locals and giving some very specific solutions which are more practical with the help of these locals.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to the DAIDA Global Awards Ceremony 2025, organized by My Livable City, an international knowledge platform dedicated to advancing urban sustainability and livability. I am Ayushi Gutte, a practicing architect based in Mumbai, and I have the pleasure of hosting today's award ceremony. To begin, I will briefly introduce this year's program and theme. Can I have the next slide, please? Following this introduction, Liesel Vivier will speak about the DAIDA Foundation and its ongoing work. We will then hear from Professor Vinayak Bharne, who will share insights into My Livable City and its various initiatives. After that, Sham Khandekar, chairman of DAIDA Foundation, will walk us through the jury process and formally announce the winners, who will then be invited to present their work. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Each year, DAIDA announces a theme that responds to pressing urban challenges. In 2022, the focus was climate change. In 2023, Cities for All, addressing minorities. In 2024, urbanization and nature, addressing the contradiction. And in 2025, the theme is public infrastructure and public spaces. Next slide, please. Let me now take you through DAIDA Foundation's vision for this theme. Cities are marked by deep social, environmental, and financial inequities that shape everyday life, especially for those at the lower end of the socio-economic spectrum. Public infrastructure and public spaces are vital in addressing these divides. Inclusive transport, accessible parks, riverfronts, plazas, and public squares create opportunities for dignity, mobility, and shared civic sense. At their best, they offer equal rights and common ground for all citizens. In times of climate crisis and urban challenges, well-designed public systems also strengthen resilience, health, and community cohesion. This year's awards invited master's students to confront these inequities and reimagine more inclusive cities. Can I have the next slide, please? This year, DAIDA received 44 submissions from 24 institutions across 6 countries, proposing ideas situated in 8 different national contexts. An internal jury shortlisted 9 finalists. The details of this rigorous selection process will be shared as the session progresses. Can I have the next slide, please? I would now like to invite Liesel Vivier to speak about the DAIDA Foundation. Liesel is an architect and urban planner working across Zimbabwe and the Netherlands. She currently serves as the deputy head of the Department of Urban Development in Almere, the Netherlands. She works as an urbanist on large-scale projects to urban regeneration. Liesel, over to you.
On behalf of the DAIDA Foundation, I would also like to give you all a warm welcome to this award ceremony. I would like to take this opportunity to tell you something about the foundation. DAIDA Foundation was set up 8 years ago in the Netherlands, and we are a small foundation, but despite that, we have a global outreach. Our mission is to support institutions or groups of individuals involved in improving the infrastructure and living conditions of vulnerable citizens in cities of the world, of the developing world. Our support is provided in the form of donations, and these donations can be used, for example, to implement projects, to educate people, to fund research, but also to fund the spread of information through books or via screening films. The applications that we receive for our support are via people that we trust and people that we know. We don't have a big organizing or a big organization in our foundation. We don't have a big, broad controlling mechanism in place, for example. So the granting of the applications are often done on trust. May I have the next slide, please? There are 5 board members, and 3 of the board members are involved in urban development in emerging economies. These are Sham Kandakar, who is the chair and an urban planner, Leo Lodder, who is a development economist based in the Netherlands, and myself, and I'm also an urban planner. And then we also have Arie van der Ven on the board, who is a consultant in public services, and Siddharth Kandakar, who is an expert in affordable housing in the Netherlands. May I have the next slide, please? As I mentioned in the beginning, we are a small foundation, but we have a global outreach. In the last 8 years, we have supported projects over 3 continents, South America, Africa, and also in Asia. And I hope that we will be able to support many more projects in the coming years in other developing countries on these continents. May I have the next slide, please? Here you see a number of projects that DAIDA has supported in the past, and I would like to highlight a number of these. We have supported 2 projects of the Pukar Foundation in India, the Journey Towards Dignity program, and also the Youth Fellowship program. In Zimbabwe, we support the foundation Streams of Hope, and DAIDA pays for the school fees of 40 orphans via that organization. And what we also do is sponsor a sewing trainings program where jobless people can train to become tailors so that they can find work in factories or start up their own businesses. In Kenya, we have donated funds for a community-based organization, and they have built a multi-purpose community center in Dandora. The center is used for part-time tuition. It's used as a learning space for school children. It is a space for interaction by the community and also for recreation. Another project we have supported in Kenya quite recently is the Accessible and Clean Water program. Here, people are given access to clean water through very simple means, such as attaching gutters to roofs for water collection or installing water tanks. We have also provided a grant for a publication for the book, Affordable Housing and Inclusive Cities, and we have funded research into homelessness in Manila and housing improvement in Thailand. May I have the next slide, please? And we have also created the DAIDA Awards to encourage research in different subjects related to the mission of DAIDA. Each year we choose a different theme for the awards. I hope you have an idea of what DAIDA does and what we stand for and the type of projects that we support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for your presentation. I would now like to invite Professor Vinayak Bharne, a renowned urbanist and adjunct professor at the University of Southern California and director of My Livable City. But before we hear from Professor Bharne, we will first share a short video that highlights the various initiatives of My Livable City. Can we please play the video?
What would it take to make your city more livable? Cleaner air and water? People-friendly infrastructure? Waste management? Certainly. And safety and security. Welcome to our world of My Livable City. Since 2014, we have been working to inform, inspire, and educate people about the creation of livable cities. We started as a journal in India, and today have grown to be a global knowledge platform and think tank through print publications, digital content, workshops, training seminars, ground activations, international partnerships, and so on. Founded and steered by Sashikala Venkatraman, city lover and management advisor, and Sham Kandakar, a veteran international urban designer, our MLC journey has been supported by a worldwide team of top professionals in design, environment, planning, policy, and marketing. There is still more work to be done, and our next generation of leaders will show the way. You too can join in and make a difference. If you believe that walkable and cyclable streets and green spaces need to be inclusive, we want to hear your thoughts. If you're tired of labels like affordable housing, but would like to see equitable cities, we'll show you successful global examples. We are growing and evolving. And if you have an opinion, an idea, a case study that you want to share, reach out to us. Together we can create the cities that we want to live in.
Stock. He is a consulting urban designer and city planner based in Los Angeles, USA. He also serves as a visiting professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago. We are honored to have him with us. Over to you, Mr. Bhande. Next slide.
Much for inviting me to speak at the DAIDA Awards this year. Great honor to be among all of you. Congrats to Shyam and the jury for yet another wonderful year of the DAIDA Awards, and congratulations to all the students for making it thus far. A few words on my livable city, where I have the honor of serving as one of the 4 directors of the organization. Shyam and Shashi were kind enough to bring me in early on, and it's hard to believe that we are more than 10 years old. We started as a modest magazine, but you can see we've morphed into books and urban activation, knowledge tours, conferences, all kinds of incredible muddle of efforts all over the world. And we hope that many of you will join our collective effort in this campaign about spreading knowledge about how to make cities livable. Which is a good segue for me to get into the topic today of public space and public infrastructure, which is the theme of this. But I wanted to frame it in the context of what it means to do so and talk about public space in a climate resilient world. We are living in a post-industrial era where numerous issues have cropped up that were not dealt with the previous generations. What does public space mean? What kind of new avenues of practice does this suggest for us? And I'm going to share 3 big ideas today in light of time. The first one is that all across the world, one of the biggest canvases of practice that I think is available for us today is the retrofit of historic urban cores. All across the world, historic cities in the global north, global south are facing one interesting dilemma. What happens to the most historic part of their cities? In affluent societies, usually where preservation rubrics are very strong and they have a lot of money to devote to preservation, historic urban cores land up becoming wonderful tourism enclaves. But in more complex societies, they face a very difficult future. They get congested, infrastructure is very dubious, streets do not have proper widths to carry the amount of cars, so there's a lot of traffic pressure. This is a study we did in the heritage city of Puebla in Mexico. I want to emphasize the crucial point between public space creation and mobility strategy in this case, where through the introduction of a tram route and the planting of strategic public bike share systems, we were able to take this entire historic district centered on the cathedral, which you see on the brown rectangle in the middle, and reduce the number of cars that come in there. This zone is now, through this strategy, made available only to emergency vehicles and permit vehicles only, largely opening it to pedestrians. So it completely distinguishes itself from the rest of the city. The result is that now all the amount of open space that is available, all the historic plazas, the historic streets, all of which are cobbled, can now be used in various ways that were not, you were not able to use them that way before because they were given largely to cars. So this is one of 20 drawings that show how the strategic introduction of transportation now has an intrinsic relationship to public space creation, and therefore a completely different index of public life that they did not have before. This is a slide that shows a dramatic night shot, just to remind you how a largely pedestrian zone can change the daily life of a historic city. The second big issue is the issue of water. The industrial era had a very different attitude to rivers, tributaries, and canals. They were largely conduits to, for trading, for taking boats and ships, etc. This is the historic city of Guangzhou in China. We did this project many years ago in collaboration with South China Agricultural University, where we were looking at retrofitting some of the historic canals and tributaries which survive today. Guangzhou was a city that was born on tributaries. It was a trading city. But over time, many of these canals have been obliterated through development, etc. In order to revitalize old Guangzhou, the government planted a beautiful museum of Cantonese opera in the middle of old Guangzhou. And this project centered on the water bodies around the canal. What you see in these three diagrams are the technical dimensions of the project, the cleaning of the water through various stations and various engineering strategies, the creation of new water bodies to stitch broken water to establish a continuous flow of water and prevent the water from stagnating, the creation of flood zones that absorb water, allow the water to not dissipate and waste, and finally a very careful strategy in making sure the water does not stagnate, but through continuous movement keeps the water fresh and generated. So these are the technical dimensions of the project. Once that's resolved, you can now think of water and the entire filigree of the canals as a network of open spaces. And what you see on the top here is the idea that the activity happening within the Museum of Cantonese Opera can now be brought outside along the banks of the canal as well on a flexible basis, so that portions of the canal become an outdoor theater. Canals can become the foregrounds of retail activity, changing the relationship of pedestrians and the canal. Some of the portions of the settlements along the canal can become informal markets. In other cases, residential buildings that are existing can now raise their land value by becoming prime real estate that is situated on the canal. So there are many ways of thinking of canal areas and canal typologies in terms of spatial planning. But the big idea here is there is a huge nexus of public space and water in a post-industrial world that is a completely different way of thinking of what public space means in our cities in the first place. The third project is in Casco Viejo in Panama, and this is about retrofitting a massive piece of infrastructure, just in light of the theme of these awards. What you can see here is the Panama Canal, which connects the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. Below that same drawing, you can see the evolution of the Casco, which was built by the Spanish. Now, the drawing on the right shows that in 2016, the government actually built the Cinta Costera, which is a massive highway that circumvents, that goes around the historic core to bypass, to help the traffic bypass going through the settlement, because there's a lot of traffic congestion in here. And what we're proposing in this initiative is, because there's so much water already available here, it's conceivable that boat traffic could be introduced simultaneously. Because the highway is raised, you can actually create a boat dock where taxis and boat taxis, water taxis, can come and park themselves, and smaller boats and jitneys could carry you under the freeway. It's a whole new way of entering the historic settlement. The result is very dramatic. You can now take the highway, and as a result of mitigating the amount of traffic, you can give it to strategic bus routes and taxis, which decongest the Casco Viejo on the one hand, but also become the armature for a eco-park by planting mangroves that completely transform this area into an ecotone where land and water meet. And over time, as the The trains in Panama get ridership as the boat traffic that has been introduced gets ridership. The entire freeway can now be transformed into a gigantic park. The mangroves are growing, and as the mangroves grow, this entire area can become a major park, which now transforms this infrastructure into a completely different experience of public space and ecology. But I want to bring this down to mainly this point, and I say this in almost all my talks. The most significant public space that I have seen anywhere in the world, the most magical of them all, is the ubiquitous presence of wayside shrines in places like Japan or in somewhere near to home in India. These are not created by architects or urban designers or planners. They are done by ordinary people. These are nodes of solace where people, just plant some insignia under a tree, and the meaning of that place changes to such a degree that so many people who are underserved, that our cities cannot cater to, find public space every day and gathering places every day under these trees in the evening after a day of hard work is done. You can see in the top slide some commerce going on, informal commerce, and you can see in the diagrams to the left how a small modest tree in a relatively non-metropolitan setting grows over time to create a microcosm of public space centered around a temple, and eventually the tree dies, but the spot remains sacred and through communal patronage becomes a temple in its own right, generating public space and public life around it. The point I'm making is all across India, thousands of such shrines are making the city every day. So the point is this at the end of the day. There are times in our careers when we will have to assert our knowledge and our technical skills about what public space means, how we make it, how design expertise can make great containers for rich urban life. But there are times in our career where the most wise thing to do is to realize that the best thing you can do as an architect and designer is to step back, because there are numerous other forces that are already doing wonderful things to create the kind of public spaces that we can never hope to achieve. Perhaps the best thing to do is to become a patron that allows these things to happen. The notion of public space, in conclusion, goes from design to activism. And I'm hoping that many of you as young students will not think of practice purely in terms of design, but also practice as an activist effort that can retrofit many of the damages that we have done and the inequalities we have created in our cities. On a concluding note, I'd just like to make two announcements. I hope you all know, the students who are watching this, that the 9 finalists will each be given a subscription of My Livable City, a complimentary subscription for a year. And the winners, of course, will have the great honor of being published in My Livable City in our forthcoming issues. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful event. Thank you all. I look forward to seeing the winning entries and all the entries, and hope to learn a lot from all of you. Congratulations to all, and thank you.
Wow, that was an insightful session. Thank you, Professor Bharne, for being with us today. We will now screen a short film that highlights the mission of the DAIDA Global Awards and offers a glimpse into its impact over the years. The film features past winners sharing their projects and experiences, and how, through this platform, some have been able to translate their research into meaningful real-world impact. Let's take a look. Can we please play the video?
The Netherlands-based charity foundation DAIDA has been doing its bit to bring about a change. Its stated mission is to improve the living conditions for those at the lower end of the pyramid in cities of the developing countries. In an attempt to incentivize potential future change leaders to start thinking about the need and the means to make cities sustainable, inclusive, and livable for all, it has instituted a global urban thesis award. The idea is to encourage master's students from around the world to think beyond the standard topics for their academic dissertations and take one step towards changing the world.
The primary reason for DAIDA Awards is simply to make young people, to nudge them to think about issues which are really relevant for the society, instead of just get their degrees.
What I always find very inspiring about the entries is how young people are so socially engaged in what is happening in the world. I think when I had just graduated, I was completely focused on design. I was only thinking about what does my design look like. And I find it very heartening to see that young people nowadays also have a very good social, they're also considered with the impact and what the social values are of their thesis, which I find very inspiring.
How does it work? The competition is open for any master's student in architecture, design, psychology, town planning, or any subject related to the urban environmental landscape. Universities around the world can apply via the global knowledge platform, My Livable City, and select a handful of the best theses from students in their institutes to participate in the DAIDA competition. The topic for each year is selected by the DAIDA jury and board, and is always socially and environmentally relevant to the countries of the emerging economies. In the past, the themes have been water and urban development, inclusive cities, designing for climate change and addressing minorities.
So the theme when I participated in the DAIDA competition was Cities for All, Addressing Minorities. It was appealing for me because it aligned perfectly with my academic research during my master's, as well as my ongoing professional work in India, where I focus on affordable housing or low-income housing. I interpreted the theme of Cities for All, Addressing Minorities from the lens of cities for economic minorities and housing justice. My focus was on the city of New Delhi in India.
When given a particular theme, students are free to interpret it, relying on their own upbringing, life, and work experience.
The lens through which the students, either from their background of the specialization that they're doing, they look at it, the cities they choose can be very different. So for example, our theme of minorities, somebody talked about children, while somebody else talked about women, somebody else talked about widows.
It was actually my tutors who recommended me to put my thesis forwards for this competition. So the theme that year was the inclusive city, and actually it was really relevant to our studio project at the time. The problem we were dealing with was a result of housing crisis in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And the background of that is that there was mass rural to urban migration, and the response from the government was to create condominium housing to house everybody, thus creating quite an uninclusive, kind of very homogeneous approach.
This award is open to students of participating universities and educational institutes from all over the world. In the past, they have presented solutions for cities in Egypt, Tunisia, South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya in Africa, to India, Bangladesh, Philippines, and Oman in Asia, as well as Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina in South America. The students in the universities themselves come from various countries, making this a truly international and diverse competition.
My thesis was focused on children, their behavior, and how our cities can influence their growth. And unfortunately, according to studies, children are one of the marginalized groups that are not considered while designing cities. I addressed the impact of the physical characteristics of streets on children's independent mobility in new cities, especially in New Cairo, Egypt. So one of DAIDA's objectives is to help students implement their projects in their countries. So this was one of the reasons that encouraged me to apply for the DAIDA competition, that I would be able to implement the interventions based on my thesis in the neighborhood that was in my case study.
One piece of feedback I received was around the need to generate stronger urban design guidelines for the proposal. So the degree that I was studying at the time had a design component, but it was more focused on the social and economic and political lens of urban planning. So after I received that feedback, I took an urban design short course, and I'm considering studying further in the urban design space to deepen my understanding of design and potentially use that to enhance the proposal. And my thesis work and the award has placed me in a leadership position in that NGO, where I'm currently leading the food systems and food security related projects, which relates directly to my thesis, which looked at food systems and urban food security.
The jury shortlists 10 to 12 candidates who then present their thesis in an online award ceremony, along with other participants and the professors who nominated them. Participating in a recognized international competition brings students the opportunity to interact with expert jurors and industry veterans, learn from peers all over the world, while defending their ideas on an international stage.
I think what one must remember is that even if you have a very good thesis that's well written, that has a good solution, that has a good argument, even then the thesis may not stand out enough, because we also look at the way that the thesis is presented and how you tell your story. What we have found is that a thesis that we have, just by reading it, we have thought, oh, it's a good thesis, but it's not excellent. When the jury has the presentation, and the presentation is really good, then we judge that thesis also on a higher level. While the opposite is also true, that sometimes we have a very well-written thesis, but the presentation and the explanation of the thesis at the presentation is not so good, then we judge it slightly less. So it's really important how you tell your story.
It's a learning for students like me who come from India, a developing country, to see presentations of from some really polished colleges, and the way they present their work. So it's a learning. So it's always the exposure that DAIDA brings to the table.
DAIDA is currently supporting projects in India, Thailand, Philippines, Somalia, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Peru, and Egypt. Its board members comprise architects, development economists, management, housing, and real estate consultants, as well as urban planners. So, what does participating and winning the DAIDA competition bring? For one, a substantial cash prize, which is often the incentive for further research. Besides the cash prizes, the jury may also award special prizes to ideas that are scalable, and winners can start further researching and implementing their solutions.
The scale is different, but the creativity, the solutions, the analysis, they have to demonstrate that they're able to provide us with a sound solution and analysis. The award is actually evolving, and we see more and more very interesting entries from different universities and faculties. Obviously, that it requires an additional work of those submitting their thesis and their design work and their research work to the DAIDA award. I see the future with good perspectives.
I think that every student, winner or not winner, had added value about the big problems of this earth. And this problem about urban cities, this problem about diversity, this problem about the climate change. So I think that everyone has so much to tell and so much to think about it, that they are the young generation who have to be responsible for the next 50 years about these big issues.
Participation is free for universities who can select the top master's theses that are relevant to this year's theme. Participating universities can email academy@mylivablecity.com to know more. For now, let's hear it from some of the previous winners.
My name is Tessa Chittenden. I'm based in the city of Cape Town. I won second prize in the DAIDA Awards in 2022. The reason I got my current job was partly because of my success in the awards. And it's also a great opportunity to receive feedback on your thesis from a world-class panel of experts so that you can really deepen the strength of your thesis proposal.
Hi, I'm Myrna Labib. I'm winner of DAIDA Awards in 2023. Since winning it and have been more focused on my research topic from different perspectives that were presented to me by the jurors during the competition. You should participate in the DAIDA Award because implementing your project on ground, in addition to the possibility of your next research idea, could be right around the corner.
Hi, I'm Zubing Shir, and I was a winner in the DAIDA competition in 2021. I now work in London in Foster & Partners, and I fully recommend you to participate in the DAIDA competition because as a student coming out of university, I think it's super important wherever you may be afterwards to continue your fascinations that you had at university. And to continue exploring your area of interest and to always keep sort of your ideas and convictions at the back of your mind throughout the rest of your lives.
I am Girisha Sethi. I received the DAIDA Foundation Award in the year 2023-24. As somebody who's been fortunate to receive the DAIDA Award, I'd encourage students and graduates of architecture, urban planning, and associated fields to participate in the DAIDA competition, as it is a wonderful, generous platform that not only recognizes and awards work that address critical issues in the field, but also promotes it at an international level.
Hi, this is architect Gauri Satam from Mumbai, India. I am the winner of DAIDA Awards 2021. The awards has definitely helped me in understanding that we as architects could contribute a lot to these urban problems through some participatory and inclusive planning alongside the locals and giving some very specific solutions which are more practical with the help of these locals.
Thank you for the great video. I hope you enjoyed the film and gained a deeper appreciation for the commitment, passion, and thought that goes into improving our cities and ultimately our planet. It is inspiring to see how ideas can evolve into action and create tangible change. May I have the next slide, please? I would now like to invite Shyam Khandekar, founder and chairman of DAIDA Foundation. Shyam is an architect, urban planner, and urban designer. He is also the co-founder of My Livable City and a respected author and editor. Under his guidance, My Livable City has published several influential books, including Designing for Sustainability through On-Field Development, Learning from the Lawn Knowledge Park, Mumbai, and Streets for All. 50 Ideas for Shaping Resilient Cities. Over to you, Shyam.
Okay. Good day to all of you from wherever you are. Happy to see that you are there, all of you, at least the 9 shortlisted participants are there, and of course others who have been involved in the thesis, but who have also probably guided them and maybe also encouraged them in all different ways. I'm going to keep my talk very short because I think my job is just now with the other things which I have just got. My job is basically to announce the winners. But I just want to build 2 things to your mind. One, it just is coincidentally that in exactly 50 years back, it was in 1976, that I finished my master's degree at the University of Manchester in UK. And when I look back 50 years, And I see what I have been able to do, not alone, but always in team, in cooperation with all sorts of disciplines. We have been able to do large projects where a lot has changed in cities because of the efforts we make. All of you stand on the threshold of such a career. And what I want to say is that there's so much you really can achieve, particularly since the fields of environmental planning, urban design, etc., have become much better known. When I graduated, it was only architecture, and urban design and planning had just started. That's one. The second thing I want to say is, do remember that such projects take a long time to be realized. So the question is, I have projects on which I've been working for 10, 15. The longest project I've been working on is 35 years. It's a project called Paleis Kwartier in Den Bosch in the Netherlands. And I've been guiding it. I have the stewardship of that project for 35 years. So many of you will be involved in large scale, long-term projects. So you have to have patience and you have to have a story which can be told and retold, because new generation of politicians will come, new generation of people will come, and you have to be able to explain to them what you're trying to achieve in very simple words. And that's why it's not only about the content, but it's also about the fact that you have to be able to tell your story well, something which Liesel also explained, that your work can be very good, but if you cannot explain it properly, it really won't take you anywhere. You really have to be able to explain in simple, short periods what the main intent of your effort is. Now, let me go back now to the rest of the work which I have to do, which is I have to introduce you to the 4 jury members. Liesel Vivier and Claudia Osceoli have been our jury members right from the beginning. You have seen them in the films which have been just now shown to you. Liesel from Zimbabwe, originally settled in Netherlands. Claudia Osceoli, originally from Brazil, now in Germany. And since this year, we have also a younger jury member, Dr. Ashim Manna, who is originally from India, but settled at this moment in Germany, working there. He graduated from Catholic University Leuven, not graduated, but got his doctorate last year. Can I have the next slide, please? So we judged your work. We looked at the presentations and cross-questioned you, 9 of you, after you made your presentations. And there were 3 prizes which we had to give with this financial amounts related to it. Additionally, we had 5,000 euros available for something what we have called follow-up money. This follow-up money is really meant for those, one of the winners possibly, who might be able to start the execution of the project on ground. This has every year been a difficult one to find, because it is not always very practical with 5,000 euro to do something, but at least we can see the project. Sometimes it has worked, sometimes it has not. This year, looking at the possibilities of follow-up projects, we decided as jury not to give that follow-up project, but to actually use that 5,000 euro money to give commendatory to 2 people who have not won the first, second, or third prize, but who will split that 5,000 euro follow-up money in 2,500 and 2,500 each. Can I have the next slide, please? So what you are going to get is just now names of 5 people, the first, second, and third prize winners, plus 2 commendations. I hope that is clear. The participating academic institutions is known to you. It's a large number, a little larger than last year's. And can I have the next slide, please? And the places where the projects are also in some of the films you have seen. So we will skip that for now. Can we have the next slide, please? The 9 finalists who are all here, I hope, presently, are these. And you all had presented. And the instead of the follow-up award, the two people we have given commendations, their names will come now on the screen. And these two are, can I have the next slide, please? Rishabh Paul and Umar Naeem. We recommended Rishabh Paul for the fact that he's looking at something which is going to happen more and more in future, which is about how do we use artificial intelligence to help us, not basically by itself, but to help us design, to augment urban design. He's from the college, Goa College of Architecture, and I think this is the first time Goa College of Architecture has got this prize. So we obviously congratulate Goa College of Architecture and his mentor, Dr. Vishwesh Kandolkar, I think. Do I say it right? And the other, so Rishabh Paul gets €2,500 prize money to hopefully carry on some research in this subject. This other €2,500 prize money we want to give to Umar Naeem, who has done a project in Lahore, Pakistan. It's about what is the social and environmental result of infrastructure projects. This is something which is happening daily around the world in urban situations, that actually vehicular traffic is being used to reduce the quality of green and blue infrastructure. And he, in his master's thesis, looks at the social and environmental results of these on the people who live around it. So these are two commendations prize. Congratulations, Umar Naeem. Congratulations, Rishabh Paul. Now we will go to the first, second, and third prize winner. We'll start with the third prize winner. You can have let's have the third prize winner, please. Okay. The third prize winner, the jury has decided, should go to Supanut Udomsila Prasup for his work, for his thesis on a project in Thailand, and the way how to reconfigure and vet ideology, as he calls it, and vernacular adaptation and modern engineering, and how to combine that for the future of places which are which used to live quite well with water, but which in these days, because of the new sort of urban design, have difficulty coping with it. So, Supanath, congratulations to you, and congratulations to your mentor, Professor Kelly Shannon, and of course to Catholic University Leuven, which has, through the last years, very often sent winning entries. So special congratulations to you. So he is given €4,000 award money. We will get in touch with all of you about how the money is transferred, by the way. Then the second prize, and the jury had, by the way, a reasonable amount of deliberations about this third, second, and first prize. But at the end, these were the ones which we decided on. And the second prize goes to a project from a totally different continent. Can I have that, please? And it goes to Abiral Bhuju of University of Stuttgart for his project in Namibia, and particularly how you use community perspectives or dealing and engage local knowledge for sustainable urban design in his looking at the ephemeral rivers of Windhoek. So congratulations, Abiral, and congratulations to your university and your mentors. You have 3 of them, I see, and 2 mentors and 1 somebody from the NSUT in Namibia itself. Congratulations to all of you. So lovely project. We really appreciated the way you looked at it. And the first prize goes to, yes, please. Can I have the next one, please? To Parnavi Hade of School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal, And we particularly like this project because of the way it looks at using public space to make it accessible to all. So the aspect of inclusivity is built into the thesis, and that is very close to the heart of the DAIDA Foundation. So Panavi, congratulations to you, and congratulations to School of Architecture and Planning in Bhopal. I think this is the first time that they are getting a prize. And congratulations to your mentor, Professor Vikram Kohli. I think with that, I have done my work. I think now it's time for the next years and the next 50 years for all of you to do your work properly. And I hope you all achieve a lot. For those who have not won any of these prizes, I still want to say that the fact that you got shortlisted meant that we as jury thought that you were very good, and we do hope that you will carry on your work. But do remember, look at every chance you get in the cities to make public spaces inclusive, and do remember to tell your story in a way that everybody understands. Thank you very much for being here, for participating, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Over to you, Ayushi.
Thank you, Sham, for that insightful address. And congratulations once again to all our winners and finalists. This was a truly fierce competition. The diversity of context, the depth of research, and the clarity of vision made the jury's task incredibly challenging. Each proposal offered a distinct way of engaging with urban complexity, and that in itself is worth celebrating. We now move to the presentation by our prize winners. I would like to invite our third prize winner, Supanut Udam Silaprasu, to present his work. Supanut, please limit your presentation to 8 minutes. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I am Supanat Udom Silapasap. Today it is my honor to have a chance to present my thesis, Reconfiguring Wet Ideology, Vernacular Adaptation and Modern Engineering Around the Moon River in Thailand, addressing the water crisis under the global warming and urbanization. So, first of all, this project is located in the Moon River Basin in the northeast of Thailand as the largest sub-basin within the Mekong River Basin. The basin is influenced by the flow of the Moon River, which collects the water from the west and flow into the Mekong River in the east. This dynamic creates an outstanding seasonal floodplain along the Moon River. Particularly, the lower part of the Moon River Basin illustrates how the river plays a vital role in shaping landscape and settlement, responding to the topography and seasonality. This leads to the selection area of a study area in a boundary of 24 by 18 kilometers, highlighting the relationship between floodplain and settlement. In the past, through the wet ideology, floodplain were preserved for the seasonal flooding, and settlement were built on higher ground. However, urbanization introduced modern infrastructure driven by a dry ideology, leading to the conflict between the natural landscape and development. This tension has become visible over the past 30 years of flooding, and it is expected to intensify due to the global warming in the upcoming future. So today the question is no longer whether cities will resist the water, but how they will live with it, and how can the city integrate wet and dry approach as an innovative design to live with this condition. So to answer this question, the analysis selected in a critical area from 24 by 18 kilometers and zoom into the scale of 9 by 6 kilometers, using the 6 different maps to show the transformation from wet to dry ideology over the time. First, a geomorphology map surveyed by geomorphologists clearly show how topography and the river shape the seasonal floodplain landscape that reflect in the pattern of water-based settlement, and also the first urbanization still follow the logic of the water and landscape. However, today the city has expanded into the seasonal floodplain through the built-up area and a massive infrastructure. This DAI approach will continue through the public and private projects in the upcoming future. Furthermore, according to the prediction for 2115, future development is clearly on the conflict with the risk of the flooding. So to better understand the transformation from wet to dry approach, the analysis overlaid 3 different maps in 9 by 6 kilometer territory and proposed the fieldwork site that was selected 15 square, each measuring 400 by 400 meter. 7 blue square represent old settlement that still exists today. Meanwhile, 8 red squares show the city development on the seasonal floodplain. So in this presentation, 2 outstanding squares have been selected to represent the wet and dry approach. On the one hand, the blue square represent the wet ideologies as a water-based settlement from the past that still exists today. Along the riverfront, the settlement maintain a relationship with the river, such as the local activities and housing typologies. The area will clearly show how the settlement still rely on the river as a part of its living system. In contrast, the red square represent modern development. New massive housing typology are built directly on the seasonal floodplain, transforming floodplain as a public space into the private property. So the dry approach clearly show in this area photo with the massive infrastructure that is driving the city development. So across the multiple scale of analysis, there is a clear conflict between landscape and urban development today. Urbanization will continue alongside increasing risk from the global warming. This leads to a design strategy based on hybrid approach, integrating wet and dry approach as a water-based urbanism, where the water and landscape become the foundation for shaping new form of urbanism. So the design begins with the water and urbanism to understand 2 different systems. In the past, water and landscape shaped the logic of the settlement, but today the territory of water has decreased and replaced by the new modern infrastructure. Also, area within the seasonal floodplain will be increasingly impacted by the future flood. Consequently, by overlaying past, present, and future conditions, the base map for the design becomes with 6 different landscape typologies in relation to water and landscape. This typology including higher and lower ground conditions, creating an adaptive framework for a new water-based urbanism within the existing landscape structure. On the higher ground, a riverfront necklace creates a soft-edge landscape, integrating flood-adapted space while accommodating high-density development along the necklace. An urban sprawl introduces a network of permeable landscape within the existing urban fabric, allowing water to be absorbed and stored. Also, perpendicular dikes intersect the river, creating strip forest and developments that work with the existing dike structure to manage the water flow. Along the river, parallel dikes are developed only on the existing dike, allowing the new urban fabric to develop, while the floodplain on the riverside is maintained for natural flood function. Moving to the lower ground, the floodplain ridge creates the amphibious landscape, while proposing the dispersal development along the ridge. At the same time, the riverfront ridge built upon the traditional settlement, reinforcing local adaptation to seasonal flooding. As a result, the proposal combines 6 different landscape and new development typologies. This approach reflects the logic of the water and landscape to frame a new form of urbanism. At the same time, the design works with the seasonal dynamic. During the wet season, all layers operate with the logic of the wetness. Particularly, the design accommodates worst-case flood scenario, allowing flexibility and transformation across different water levels. Hybridity, when translated into the water-based urbanism, is expressed to the sectional typology that transforms existing structure into a variety of landscape and development typology. In addition, dive into the detail where architecture and landscape work as a one system, merging Thai vernacular knowledge with the soft modern engineering, understanding natural dynamic while accommodating urban growth. By layering vernacular knowledge and engineering logics, The project also proposed an adaptive framework for upcoming future. It offers elasticity during the wet season, allowing the city to adjust and respond to the water fluctuation. So in conclusion, this thesis clearly challenged the dominant dry ideology and offer a research and design-driven alternative for future urban development. By reconfiguring wet ideologies, the project introduced hybridity with a water-based urbanism that integrates tradition with technology, local memory with the future flood projection. By living with the water rather than against it, cities around the world can shift from resistance to adaptation, responding to global warming and urbanization for our upcoming future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sapanat, and congratulations once again. Great work and interesting diagrams. Your work reminds us that living with water rather than resisting it may be one of the most powerful urban strategies in the face of global warming. Next slide, please. Next, I invite our second prize winner, Abiral Bhuju, to present his work. Abiral, you have 8 minutes. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the award by DAIDA, and I'll shortly present my thesis. My thesis explores how local knowledge and community perspectives can inform sustainable river designs in Windhoek, Namibia, a city where dry riverbeds, also known as Omrambo, both shape ecological and social identity. So, urban rivers are increasingly recognized as nature-based solutions for climate resilience, biodiversity, and public spaces, but are often overlooked in the global south. In Windhoek, as mentioned before, these rivers are ephemeral, and which means that they are dry for most of the year, but they still hold a lot of ecological and social value. At the same time, these river systems also mirror apartheid-era spatial divides, which physically separates the affluent eastern neighborhoods from marginalized western areas. Despite their potentials, these rivers remain marginal in formal urban planning and even seen mostly as unsafe or irrelevant. So as you can see, the strong contrast between the wet and the dry seasons play a key role in how these rivers are used and perceived. Because they're often dry, these rivers are frequently seen as temporary or expendable spaces. Here's a map of Windhoek showing the Aribush and the Klein Windhoek rivers alongside the various neighborhoods they cut across. Most research in Windhoek's rivers treat them primarily as technical infrastructure. So most existing studies only focus on flood control, water management, and environmental performance. What's missing is the cultural and social dimensions of how these river systems are used, how residents use them in everyday life, and what they represent in terms of identity, access, and safety. While global research increasingly emphasizes community participation and local knowledge, this perspective remains a bit hidden in Windhoek's planning context. This led to the central research question of how do community perspectives and local knowledge influence the design, management, and future development of river systems in Windhoek? Sub-questions also explored usage patterns, community aspirations, and how traditional or local knowledge can inform to sustainable planning. Research objectives included analyzing community perspectives, identifying key themes and local practices, assessing the potential role of community engagement in urban design, and to develop a set of recommendations or a preliminary framework for a more inclusive river planning. The methodology, given the interdisciplinary nature of the research and the need to balance environmental, spatial, and social considerations, I used a mixed methods approach, which combined qualitative and quantitative methods. Data collection methods included surveys, semi-structured interviews, focus group discussions, and on-site observations across several neighborhoods along the Aribush and Klein Windhoek rivers. A preliminary findings presentation was also held at the end of the research period. This everything allowed for the triangulation of data from multiple sources, enhancing both the depth and validity of the findings. Moving on to the findings and discussion. So the key findings emerged were, firstly, these rivers play very different roles across the neighborhood, ranging from informal pathways and gathering spaces to neglected or often avoided areas. Second, across all communities, there is a strong ecological concern and awareness of the river's environmental importance. And thirdly, residents consistently expressed a desire to be meaningfully involved in future river planning and decision making processes, however small the role may be. So the community typologies included the informal settlements, the low-income formal in neighborhoods, and high-income suburbs. These rivers function as pathways, and inequality shapes experience. Safety, access, and maintenance vary strongly between these three types of communities. But local knowledge exists everywhere. There is environmental awareness and everyday practices as well, but they remain unrecognized in planning. So this is a quick view of the informal settlements. These are the low-income formal neighborhoods and the high-income suburbs. So three interconnected themes structure the findings: social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity. Windhoek's rivers mirror the social inequalities across the city. While some residents use them for walking or gathering, others particularly find these areas unsafe. Achieving social sustainability also means creating rivers that foster belonging, safety, and shared ownership. Communities want to be genuine partners with the government in co designing, ensuring that these rivers reflect their identity and daily realities. Although mostly dry, as explained before, these rivers are also vital ecological systems. Residents value their vegetation and their role in flood management. Local ecological knowledge also offers insight into restoration and climate adaptation. Environmental sustainability also depends on working with the natural processes through low impact, nature based design that supports biodiversity and strengthens resilience to changing conditions. For many residents, these rivers also provide informal livelihoods through informal markets. At the same time, people in low income areas have often no reliable waste disposal services, leading them to use these beds as dumping sites. Integrating better waste management and livelihood opportunities such as markets, work opportunities, and recycling initiatives can also reduce pollution while strengthening local economies. So, like Namibian Poiki pot shown in the picture, urban sustainability here rests on its three legs of social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and economic opportunity. These findings suggest three key implications for urban design. Rivers should be treated as everyday social ecological spaces, not as vacant, leftover, or neglected spaces. Secondly, river design must actively address spatial inequality, particularly in underserved neighborhoods. There should not be a one shoe fits all standard. And lastly, urban design should be understood as an ongoing participatory process rather than a finished project. So, recommendations include prioritizing low impact green infrastructure, embedding community participation in all project phases, supporting informal livelihoods through adaptive design, aligning river projects with broader urban strategies, and also integrating safety, access, and maintenance from the start. This resulted in a framework showing that meaningful community engagement is essential for successful river based urban design. Existing participatory processes are often procedural, extractive, and disconnected from outcomes. The engagement framework suggests a context sensitive framework grounded in lived realities and structured around the four pillars of inclusivity, continuity, co production, and accountability. Building on this thesis, the next phase of the research would be ideally expanding participation and feedback loops around all neighborhoods in Windhoek and preparing the groundwork for a small pilot river revitalization area. The focus would not be immediate construction, but the development of institutional, financial, and participatory foundings that can support implementation and future scaling across Windhoek's wider river systems. While there are a lot of things I can reflect upon, one key insight from this research is that participation is not automatically inclusive. True inclusion requires a redistribution of power in decision making. Ultimately, this research shows that community knowledge is not an addition to urban design, but it is foundation. I'd like to conclude by appropriating a political signal from the disability rights movement, asserting that decisions affecting people should not be made without their direct, full participation and input. Hence, nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you, Abiral. Impressive work and congratulations. Your project highlights the often overlooked social and cultural life of urban rivers, a compelling reminder that true urban resilience must remain people centered. And now, next slide, please. I invite our first prize winner, Parnavi Harde, to present her work. Parnavi, please keep your presentation to 8 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I am Parnavi Hade from School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal. My thesis is Rethinking Publicness Through the Lens of Spatial Justice examines how contested post-industrial lakefronts lands in Nagpur can be transformed into inclusive and equitable public realms. The idea behind this project is to understand public space as a collective urban resource rather than a commodified asset in rapidly transforming Indian cities. The intention is not to beautify the waterfront, but to create it more livable and lively. This project addresses spatial injustice by balancing old and new, ensuring public spaces remains inclusive. The focus is on the intention creation of public spaces that accommodate multiple users. In Indian cities, neoliberal development has increasingly privatized public realms, displacing informal users and eroding livelihoods. The site remains in Nagpur's historical belt along the lakefront, once a most vibrant and productive post-industrial due to post-industrial decline, the fragmented ownership have created speculative pressures. During the study, I observed that nearby vendors, workers, and a lot of residents are depend on the space daily, yet they have no formal claim. The focus is on creating the space that bridge the informal and formal needs. The cotton market, which is currently fragmented, lost, and dead, there is an intention of activating this is to reconnect its rich heritage and transform it into a vibrant, inclusive public space. Once the city's most active public realm in pre-independence times, it's now become a city-level magnet. Nagpur grew from the Mahal area, involving a city where mills, lakes, and leisure areas were closely intertwined. Workplaces, the mills, the lakes as leisure areas created vibrant and walkable communities. We observed during cultural diversity, social bonds strengthened, and various layers of urban identities were formed around these spaces. There were various observations that I have done while understanding the economic profile, different housing types, different ethnic groups, and also understanding the permeability in this densely compact context. But today, if we see, the lake's edge lie inactive, despite being central to the city. Markets bustle, yes, yet the lake remains disconnected. The analysis revealed a stark inequality between privatized communities occupying large chunk of lands with fewer people, while dense, diverse communities have minimal space. Public life unfolds on streets, vendors, commuters, and everyday interactions, but no inclusive dedicated spaces exist. The precinct highlights festivals which are rooted in the culture, which is very prominent to to this only city and to this only precinct. But the disconnection has highlighted the urgent need to reclaim civic spaces and inform the intention behind every intervention. Thus, I identified five urban magnets, that is the Cotton Market, Raman Science Center, Shukravari Lake, Railway Metro Node, and the Empress Mill lands. Connecting these anchors is an attempt to create a coherent, inclusive public realm. Heritage structures through adaptive reuse are reintegrated into everyday life. The idea behind these interventions is to balance the privatization pressures with social diversity, unlocking the site's potential for inclusive public life. The strategy of these public realm through everyday is by creating everyday spaces, which is visitor spaces, heritage spaces, informal activity spaces, and cities open spaces are created. So, a micro level, if we see at the micro level, neighborhood connections, the lakes are strengthened, and at the macro level, major anchors like the lake, cotton market, and mill lands form a city level engagement integrated into a wider urban network. The focus is here is to address spatial injustices while reinforcing the precinct's identity and historical significance. If we see the structure plan is like created to activate the precinct through a symbiotic relationship between the informal needs and the formal economic activities. City level open spaces are created to increase connections, interactions, and activities. Adaptive reuse of existing buildings supports informal uses, while informal plazas provide dedicated street activity spaces. The idea behind redesigning these streets is to connect the spaces, integrate heritage, and inclusive, equitable public realm. If we go from conceptualization to realization, we can see the primary phase is to activate public realm through urban magnets, that is the market, food plaza, informal activities, and the lakefront, while connecting heritage asset and enhancing public participation. The secondary phase will integrate public realm with transit and street networks, improving accessibility and permeability. The tertiary phase will create an active mixed use, which is a commercial, vibrant corridor, reinforcing Nagpur's spatial identity. Governance shall be supported through institutional collaboration, community participation, and public private partnership, revenue generating cultural mixed use components anchored locally to ensure long term maintenance and viability. Now we look up to the detail of waterfront, which is the Shukravari Lake. The plan is to emphasize character based development, public run streets, and design codes for the precinct. Shukravari Lakefront is transformed into an inclusive edge with cycling tracks, small parks, exhibition areas, and vendor zones, spaces that engage users throughout the day. Mill lands, which were once vacant, shall be revitalized into a holistic communal spaces blending inclusivity, cultural events, markets, and green spaces. Green spaces that act as connectors and linking the precinct to enhance the connectivity and encouraging interaction of formal and informal groups. Lastly, there is a cotton market precinct which is the most active precinct where the cotton market will become a celebratory public realm. Its location near the railway station will support commuter centric and informal multifunctional activities, strengthening the network of pedestrian, metro, and waterfront connections. Streets are redesigned as people centric. New streets near transit nodes are created as prototypes for Indian context. Walkable, vendor friendly, commuter oriented, enhancing both connectivity and public engagement. Lastly, in the old city, smaller intervention will enhance vibrancy, decongest streets, and improve pedestrian flow. Adaptive reuse of multifunctional spaces host temporal markets, festival, and food parks along the temple areas. These streets connect directly to Shukravari Lake, strengthen the pedestrian and cultural links while activating heritage spaces. Heritage shall be experienced, activated, and celebrated. And in conclusion, this project demonstrates how special justice can guide equitable urban redevelopment. It transforms contested land into a shared civic asset, reinforcing the right to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Parnavi, and congratulations on on this remarkable achievement. The
Thank
clarity
you.
of your diagrams and the strength of your argument demonstrates how spatial justice can actively guide equitable urban development. May I have the next slide, please? Thank you. DAIDA will be in touch with all the winners in the coming week regarding the next steps. With this, we come to the close of today's awards program. Sensitive and intelligent design is truly the need of the hour. And the presentations we discussed today were both thought-provoking and deeply inspiring. It has been a privilege to glimpse the powerful work emerging from this platform and the meaningful impact DAIDA continues to create. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all our winners for sharing their work with us today. Thank you to all our viewers, shortlisted candidates, and distinguished speakers who joined us from across the world. A special thanks to the organizing team at My Livable City, Shashikala Venkataraman, Seema Taneja, and Mitali Chaudhary, for the dedication behind the scenes. And last, but certainly not the least, a gratitude to the technical team at Dreamcast for seamlessly hosting this online event. Before we conclude, we would like to share that the competition theme for 2026 will be announced in the coming weeks. All updates will be available on the My Livable City website. We encourage you to stay connected and spread the word. May I have the next slide, please? I would like to leave you with a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. May you continue to challenge conventions, shape new paths, and inspire the world through your work. For any further questions, please feel free to reach out to My Livable City. Thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you next year.